like to invite Chelsea to come on forward. Chelsea's going to open this message time with just sharing about this powerful ministry that you've been a part of, I know, for many years. How many years have you been? When did you first get to know Royal Family Kids, Chelsea?
17 years ago. This is Community of Hope's 17th year
17, wow.
with Royal Family Kids Camp. And I'm seeing a lot of people out here who have been around since 17 years ago. So it's exciting.
Since the origins, since the start.
Here. You know, Royal Family has a way of doing that. We kind of suck you in, and then you never go very far because it's a pretty cool week that we get to spend with these kids.
Well, thanks for your faithfulness, and thanks for being here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here to talk
info
about
and
it.
just updates and awareness. So thanks, Chelsea.
Yeah. First of all, I want to recognize if you have been out to a Royal Family Kids Camp before, can you just raise your hand here? Because there's a lot of you guys out there. Thank you so much for the years of service. And I can say years because I'm looking at your faces, and it's literally for a lot of you like 17 years. So I want to talk a little bit about foster care in general. So for those that don't know, Wilsonville Royal Family Kids Camp, we are a summer camp that is for children in foster care. And a lot of times we're out there and we're like, oh my gosh, this camp is so great. Why can't anybody go? And so we want to look a little bit more just at kind of the foster care crisis in our country. This is something that has been going on for a number of years, and in light of recent events and spending, 2+ years in a pandemic, it's not gotten better. These are our children who have experienced some really horrendous things in their life, and a lot of those experiences are things that would separate them from God and from understanding His love. So looking at just kind of some current statistics about the foster care system. And we've got a slide up here. So currently there's over 437,000 children in the foster care system in the United States. Those are kids who have been removed from their family. So it is estimated that over 700,000 children suffer from some form of abuse or neglect in a year. They just don't get removed from their home. When we look at kind of the research, this didn't start until the late 1990s, where they really started looking at what does trauma do to us as human beings, what does it do to our brain and the structure of our brain. And so this research led to some pretty scary statistics. And so that's what you see up here on the screen. These are the statistics of kids who are aging out of the foster care system. Not great. They have not really been set up for a life of success. What we have found is that there's something called adverse childhood experiences. Those are things that we all experience as children that, depending on how much we experience it, how frequently, how long throughout our life, and the supports that we have, determine whether or not we're going to live out these statistics. So with this research, like I said, it started in the 1990s. Some days that feels like a long time ago. Other times it's not. But what that has done is it has led to some additional research into what they call positive childhood experiences. Now, positive childhood experiences are things that we experience as children that help us to become strong, healthy, resilient adults. This study came out, I think it was just published in like 2016. So again, not that long ago. Well after we started doing Royal Family Kids Camp. But when you look at these positive childhood experiences, it is 100% what we do at camp. And so for years, we have known that camp is doing something for these kids. We're not sure what it is. We know that we go out there for a week and we love on them and we pour into them and we teach them about Jesus and we do all of this fun stuff. And somehow it does something, and what's really cool is now there are actual studies that say, this is what you're doing. This is how you are changing their brain so that they don't have to live out these statistics. So, enter Royal Family Kids Camp. There's some pictures up here on this next slide just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do out at camp. There might be some familiar faces on there. Some of them may be disguised as other things. But again, like I said, Rural Family Kids Camp, we get to take kids between the ages of 7 to 11 from our local community out to camp for a week. That week at camp is all about them. A lot of times, this is the first time that our campers have been in a place where they've been surrounded by other children who are in foster care. We don't advertise it to the kids as a camp for foster children. They get out there and they'll get on the bus and it's like, wait, so you live with your grandma? Well, I live with my aunt and uncle. Or wait, you're in a foster home? Well, I have a foster dad and a foster sister. And you just see the connections. And for the first time for so many of these kids, they belong. They're around other kids that have had similar experiences. And when you are 7 or 8 or 9 years old and you've been moved to 10 or 12 or 15 different homes with strangers who you don't know, and that's just in the last 6 months, nobody else can understand that. I can stand up here and I can talk about it, but I cannot fathom what that experience is like. And so to get on a bus and sit next to somebody who you can look at and know that they understand what you've been through, that's a huge relief to a lot of these kids, to finally be in a place where they belong. So that's one of the great things that we get to do out at camp. We do a lot of fun activities. A lot of it is really geared to promoting teamwork and building resilience and kind of that growth mindset of like grit and perseverance and, hey, you know what, you didn't pass the swim test today, but we're gonna try again tomorrow, and we can practice these skills, and then let's give it a try, and they've got their friends there cheering them on. I mean, that's what camp is all about. The other way I like to describe camp is it's kind of like spending a week in our own little slice of heaven. And I say that because if you've ever been to camp, you know, I envision a week at camp, that's got to be what heaven's like. And I say that because we all still have shortcomings. We all still have some not great moments. For those of you that don't know, we go to camp the end of July. It's been hot in the summers here in Oregon the end of July. There's no air conditioning out at camp. So when you put, 70 adults and 30 plus kids out there for a week in 100 plus degree heat with no air conditioning and not sleeping all that well, none of us are really firing on all cylinders. We have our moments, but it's amazing to see the grace and the love and the forgiveness that is shown from camper to camper and from adult to camper and from adult to adult. And it's just something that you don't get to experience anywhere else. And that's where we really get to see God's love coming through, but it's also how we can really show these kids firsthand what it means to have Jesus love us and to love on each other. So I want to kind of address, I think the big question is always like, well, does 5 days really make a difference, right? We get them here at the church Monday morning, we bring them back Friday afternoon, and that's always the question. It's like, well, yeah, you can take them out there and you can do all this fun stuff, but what does 5 days really do? So I can talk about all of my experiences, and I think anybody in this room will agree that it's not just 5 days. It's 5 days when they're 7 years old, and 5 days when they're 8 years old, and 5 days when they're 9 years old, and our goal is to get them back year after year, because that time adds up, and it compounds on each other, and it really does make a difference. So I reached out to some of our former campers. The great thing about doing this for 17 years is that we have campers who are now adults. So I reached out to one of our campers. She has since graduated. We've got some pictures of her up here. So this is Jenna. Jenna is now, she almost 21. Crazy. She came to us as a 7-year-old up there on the top picture with her counselors. And you can see the bottom right picture, that is Jenna coming back her first year as a junior counselor. And you'll notice Valerie, her counselor when Jenna was a kid coming through camp, was now her co-counselor as a junior counselor. So when we talk about, is it just 5 days? It's not just 5 days, because Jenna spent 5 days for 5 years with Valerie. And then she got to come back when she was 15, and she continues to spend 5 days with Valerie. And they have a relationship outside of camp. And so that's where we never know how we're going to touch these kids. So Jenna wasn't able to be here today, but she did write a letter because she just wanted to share what camp has meant to her and her experience. So I want to read her words. She says, "Hello, my name is Jennifer. I was in the foster care system from the age of 7 until about 8.5. During that time, my foster parents took me to a camp called Royal Family Kids Camp. I was young, lonely, confused, and afraid. Taken from my parents and never given an explanation as to why. When I first got to Royal Family Kids Camp, I resented it. I was taken from my parents because I was told they did not want me. I was moved to a couple foster homes within the first week and was told it was because they didn't want me either. Then I was taken to camp, to which I assumed I was there because my foster parents didn't want me. But the unconditional support and gentleness of my counselors helped me realize I did belong somewhere. I continued to go to this camp until I was 11 years old. It was the highlight of my summer. My last year was extremely emotional. Amidst my parents' marital problems, I knew camp was a safe, amazing place to be. Chelsea told me that when I was 15, I could come back and be a junior counselor. So that's exactly what I did. Being a counselor at camp and seeing the other side of things has been such a rewarding experience. Being able to work and give back to the wonderful adults that showed me that I was loved and mattered was the most amazing feeling I have ever felt. Being able to share my experiences with these kids and have them feel the same way I did at camp is such a blessing in and of itself. I hope to continue coming to camp and to continue to help these children who are so deserving of love and patience." So that is her experience, having gone through camp as a camper and getting to come back. So when she was 15, she came back to camp as a junior counselor, and she's been with us since. Every year she comes back, we send the kids home at the end of the week with a photo album. Because these kids move around so much, many of them don't have pictures of themselves. And if you think about it, just this day and age, because everything is on cell phones and devices, there's just not a lot of hard copies of pictures floating around. So we send each kid home with a photo album. It's what we do on Friday before we put them on the bus. They sit down with their cabins and they get to go through all of the pictures of their week at camp and reminisce on it and remember. And for a lot of them, those are their most prized possessions that they take with them. And every year when Jenna comes back to camp, she brings her stack of photo albums. She's got all 5 of them because those are the things that she continually looks through. And our campers will talk about, they move homes, they lose things, things get misplaced, but those photo albums are something that go with them place to place so that they can look back on things. Jenna is one of 4 campers who have graduated from our camp who have since come back as junior counselors and staff, which is really exciting to see them come back. I want to share another story with you about another one of our campers that's a little bit different. So the next slide, this is Nika. Nika came out to camp. She started with us. Actually, she was just shy of 7. She was 6 because she is the 3rd of 4 siblings that we have had come through our camp. Her 2 older siblings came. She couldn't wait to come, so she got to come when she was about 6.5, and she did 5 years at camp with us. That top photo, that's her first year at camp, in the top left there. Her singing on stage, so here's something that's really amazing about Nika. She has a phenomenal voice. So here she is, little 6-year-old. We do a talent show every year. She gets up on stage, and anyone that's sat through a Royal Family talent show or maybe just a kids talent show, it's always a fun surprise as to what talents you're going to get on stage. Sometimes there's singing and dancing, sometimes there's joke telling. And so, Nika was probably the 3rd or the 4th kid that got up there and was going to sing a song. And so we were all ready for this little 6-year-old to sing. And then the sound that came out of her mouth, I mean, anybody that's heard her, it's like angels up there on the stage. This girl has a voice that you would not believe. And the first time that she ever sang was on the stage at the talent show when she was 6.5 years old at camp. That sparked a interest for her in singing that led her to go on to get voice coaches, to win local competitions, to win county competitions. She has been brought to county fairs to sing. And so she just a phenomenal voice. Those of you, we had a auction a couple years ago just before the pandemic. She came and sang there. And so it's just, hearing her sing is amazing. Really great family. She was adopted. I actually met Nika, I think she was, this big and still in diapers, because I had her older kids at camp and they forgot some meds and I had to take them home. And I'll tell you, Friday afternoon after camp, the last thing as the camp director that you want to do is drive across town to deliver some meds to kids. However, I know that family would really like their kids to be medicated. So it was worth the drive. And I'm tired, and the door opens, and here's Nika. She's like this big with these piercing blue eyes, and the family did 4-H at the time, and they were raising kittens. And she has like 3 kittens in her arms, and she hands them to me, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, this is exactly what I needed. So that was my first time meeting Nika, and she is just one of those kids that you connect with, and you don't ever forget them. We have stayed in contact with Nika's family. Nika's one of those kids that is really struggling to fight those statistics. And I share this because I think that's the reality of what we do at camp. We bring them out there and we love on them, and we can't always, I don't want to say we can't always make a difference, but sometimes that difference looks different. So she's had a really difficult go, a number of residential stays for mental health reasons, some suicide attempts, she's living a really hard life. So her mom reached out to me, her adoptive mom reached out to me probably a month ago. And so I just want to share, this is a mom that has been through the ringer. She's got a couple kids that have been moved out of her care because she's just not able to care for them, and she feels like a failure because she's like, I just can't love them enough. And we have a lot of conversations about that of just, we talked about what trauma does to a child and how we're trying to undo that, but sometimes it feels like we're playing catch up. But I want to read to you what her mom shared. So Sarah wrote, my aching, tearful heart is writing this through tears tonight. Tears of sadness and grief, yet tears of gratefulness and love. My dear child has made the full circle, adopted through foster care into the most loving home with a mother that will never ever give up on her. She's had trips to the hospital, residential, overnight stays, too many trips to the emergency department to ever count. Now here we are in a hotel in DHS custody. I will admit I was not able to support her immense needs. Even with all of my trauma-informed studies, 24-hour supports, RAP teams, and more, I could not keep my child and others safe. Today, she pulled her most sentimental items out that she has carried along the way during this journey. Her silk pink baby blanket I bought her when she first entered my home. Her pink bunny I bought her when she was big and brave and faced some big trauma and fears as a very young and fragile girl. And then this worn out, sweet little teddy bear. The first bear that she ever picked off the table to make her feel secure leaving her mom and going to Wilsonville Royal Family Kids Camp for the first time. It's been many, many years since that day, and she hangs on to it and sleeps with that bear. Today, day 9 in a motel, waiting for yet another placement and a higher level of care, she pulled out this sweet, ratty old bear and said, Mom, would you send a picture of me and my bear to Chelsea, please? I really miss and love her. So Sarah says, thank you for never giving up on my children, no matter how difficult they have been and no matter what roads they have taken, for always, always being a safe haven for them, even while hospitalized, under suicidal watch for months on end, and for loving them with no end and no boundaries. So many children's lives have been changed just because of your enormous hearts. especially the 4 of my 7 children that became mine through the gift of adoption. So I just want to share that with you of, we get to go to camp and we get to touch these kids. And we hope that their life takes a good trajectory. But I think these are the examples of just how much we're touching them and just how much of a difference we're making and just how much God has his hand in all of this. Because while we can't understand why some kids have this life trajectory and have to deal with these hard things, the fact that when she's in the midst of her darkest times, the people that she is thinking about are those from camp, and the memories and the things that bring her comfort are the bear that she picked up in this sanctuary her first day of camp. Those are the times where we see God's love and we see him working. And it's to me the reminder that, it's not for me to understand his plans or his time with these kids. My job is to go to camp. It's to love them. It's to teach them about his love. It's to talk to them about how they are these amazing people. The song that we sang, Shine, when Mike's been out there with us, he has the adults turn to the kids and sing that to them. And if you look at those lyrics, that can be so powerful, hearing that from some of the first trusted adults that you've ever been around. So again, I just want to share some stories of campers that we have had out with us, how they have experienced camp and what their experience continues to be from camp, because I feel like that's the true testimony to what we do out there. With that being said, we obviously always have room for more volunteers. It's a pretty sweet gig. I mean, we get to go out there and love on these really amazing kids. There's no better way that you can spend 5 days. Hands down, for those that have been, will totally agree. It is the best 5 days that we get to spend all summer. I think a lot of us as adults are almost selfish for going, because I can tell you, I'm like, there's no way I couldn't do a week at Royal Family. It is exhausting. I won't lie. You're going to come home and you're going to be completely exhausted, but your heart will be so filled and overflowing, it will keep you going for the rest of the year. So some specific needs that we have this year, we always, right now, we just have need for adults, like over the age of 18. We have amazing junior counselors that come out, but we do actually need adults out there with us. So if you are over 18, you're our person. Counselors and relief counselors to actually be with the kids, but we have a lot of needs for people to help run the activities where you get to meet with all of the campers throughout the day. We have a need for someone to help with the Bible message, some photography needs. We have music needs. Pretty much if you have some special hidden talent, we probably have a need for that too. We just don't know it yet, so let us know if you have something that you can share with these campers. So we, in the bulletin, there's information on how to contact us. We're gonna have some applications and some of our leadership staff out there after service. So please, if this is something that you are interested in or want to hear more about, please stop by and talk to us, because we would love to share more about what we do out there at camp. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Pastor John.
Thank you, Chelsea. And wow, it's starting to ramp up already, so camp will be here before we know it, right? So thank you, and again, I encourage you to speak with her after the service. There's some others from Royal Family that have done this ministry too. But I just wanted to wrap up with some thoughts and some Bible verses related to this theme. Let the children come. Let the children come. And we see how precious children were to Jesus, and that should be to us. And just stirring that, maybe you already thought about this while you were hearing Chelsea and talk about camp, but how many of you have been to a Bible camp or any kind of camp? Let's just say, how many have been to camp as a kid? Okay? All right, so what are your favorite memories of camp? I've got a couple of answers here that some of the people that are viewing said. One said, Dave Grill said, I went to vacation Bible school every summer, so he took it to that. Yeah, that was like a camp week. You can go back and forth, but vacation Bible school, many of you have helped with that. Great memories and friends. And also Ruth Horan said that VBS, she went to vacation Bible school in Alaska, where I grew up. Still see one of my teachers, age 94 now, who's a friend of my mom's. That's a neat connection. And any others? Tell me, what was your favorite experience at camp? Anybody that's gone to camp, what did you like to do?
Well, junior high and high school, I was the class nerd and went to a four-square camp where half of the time was Bible study.
Oh.
And the other half was activities. But
Okay.
The just
So-
incredible amount of Bible study was exactly what I needed there.
Church camp, Bible study, activities, half and half. That's a pretty good thing. Yep. Anybody else? No, that's not good. Yeah, Jim.
Campfire and singing songs.
Campfire and singing songs. Awesome. Yep. Good memories. Yep. Ping pong. All right. Ping pong tournaments. All right. That sounds like first got your racket sport thing going with ping pong, right? Okay. Anybody like water activities at camp? Anybody been to camp or like that? I some of you know, as I've been at Royal Family Camp, that's been my niche, doing water stuff. Steve would attest to as well. We're water dogs, right, Steve? That's our term. I love the water. And so this was where I ended up, too, when I was at camp. These were the lifeguards that I worked with, doing helping the kids with some of the water activities. That was last summer. That was a hot week, super hot. But water was a good place to be. But that's kind of what I remember, too. I went to Bible camp as a kid. Listen to this. So, being a Lutheran pastor and upbringing, so I went to Luther Wood, Luther Haven, and Luther Land Bible camps. It's like, it doesn't get much more in the 70s. Boy, those are good days. And I think, anyway, just a few glimpses of that, favorite memories. Again, camp really touches the heart, and I see that at Royal Family. I experienced that personally. When you're in that close environment with people that are there to bless you, love you, teach you about Jesus, and just have a lot of fun. And like I love what you said, Chelsea, it's like a little slice of heaven. And a lot of people, you guys working harder than ever just to put this thing on and all the weeks and months leading up to it, but it's worth it every single moment. And I think it shows, again, this theme of children and Jesus and what's precious to God are these children. And so I'm going to read a familiar passage from Matthew 19, just in the midst of Jesus doing important stuff like teaching adults, right? Yeah, okay. And then it says in chapter 19, verses 13 through 15, then little children were brought to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and to pray for them. But the disciples rebuked those who brought them. But Jesus said, let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. When he had placed his hands on them, he went on from there to do the real important Jesus stuff. Now, this was the important Jesus ministry stuff. And reminds us, yes, children are important to Jesus. And as we see real honestly in this passage, we see the disciples acted like people would. Typical responses. The disciples got it sometimes and didn't get it other times, right? They were the kind of these keepers of the gate, right? They're trying to screen the people who wanted to get to Jesus. Some important people were breaking through to listen and to see Jesus. And but these parents and kids, it's like, no. You need to, take a back seat here. This is what the disciples are saying. And that was a common thing for a blessing from a good teacher or whatnot. But, again, the disciples had a different agenda here. And they didn't fit the ministry agenda that Jesus was about, so they thought. And what's going to be gained by doing something for these children that could do nothing for them? Sound familiar? Why do you bother with what you can't get anything back? What's the point? Small, weak, powerless, can't vote, naive, humble, right? And when they looked at them from their viewpoint and the kingdom that they thought Jesus was going to bring, even some kind of powerful, political, militant kind of kingdom, no, they just brushed them off. But Jesus opens his arms, and he just gets right to the main thing, right? Don't you love it? When Jesus goes right to the core. He goes right to the heart, and he says, the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. It's exactly opposite from the world's value system. God's greater glory takes the weak and makes them strong, instead of just taking the strong and making them stronger. That's the miracle of God in Jesus. And so opening his heart, opening his arms to these children. And as I was reading more, I was looking on the Royal Family website. You can look all this yourselves too, but I just wanted to share a couple of things that I saw the heart of this ministry. I was reminded of again that is really about reflecting Jesus' love to others. So a couple of the things. It says, Royal Family Kids provides a wonderful experience for children to receive unconditional love. Does that sound like Jesus? Unconditional love, hope, and safety. Again, in Jesus' name. And then I just picked out a few of these key points. Transformation. All young lives can realize their full potential, healing, and purpose in the world. Right? Transformation. Prevention. Listen to this one. We believe it's better to build stronger children than to heal broken adults. Right? Start when they're young. Right? Because try to fix what's broken later. Chelsea's already acknowledged. I mean, just the fact that that sweet gal is hanging in there probably would be a statistic if it weren't for that deep down love that she got as a young person. And then partnership with the local church. That's us. Right? Church is the heart, it says, of our creating and leading change in their community. So they partner. They want us to be a part of this ministry that we would bless others. And I'm still amazed at how ministries like this are blessed by God. It's like a miracle, because I think in '85 there were 37 kids. The first camp down in Southern California, Newport Beach area, there were 37 abused and hurting kids that they helped through their camp. Now it's nearly 10,000. 9,872 children as of 2018, okay? So you see that multiplication of what God has done through this. So again, what does Jesus do in his ministry? Why has God blessed this ministry? What's so significant? Well, think about what Jesus did. He puts the weak before the strong, the poor before the rich, the humble before the proud. And I think about that ministry and even that theme that we see in Scripture, caring for the least of these. And one other statement they say, it says, we are motivated, and so should we be motivated, but Royal Family Ministry is motivated by the example Christ set to share a common goal of caring for those Jesus referred to as the least of these. Looking at the Word. And look at this verse with me for a moment. Why don't we just read it together? I said, what drives us? Let's read this verse. We are, sorry. I don't have it there. I thought I did. Go ahead to the next one. Go to the next one. There we go. It is there. So let's read it together. I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. And so, a reminder, I'm going to read one more passage and just give some short reflection on it, that love is worth the risk. Think about that theme. Love is worth the risk. And I'm going to read from John 21. This is the passage after the resurrection and one of Jesus' resurrection appearances. So here we are in this Easter season, and here's what happened after Easter. So from John 21, I'm going to read from verses 15 through 19. When they'd finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time, he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. And this theme of love and vulnerability is a theme that many people have reflected on. There's a author, C.S. Lewis, I've quoted many times. He wrote a book called The Four Loves. He said, there's no safe investment when a person risks loving. Think about that. It's not safe to love, is it? And he said, to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly be broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give your heart to no one, not even to an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, your heart will change. No, it will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. The alternative to tragedy, or at least to the risk of tragedy, is damnation. Now listen to this. This is powerful stuff. Kind of gives me chills. The only place outside of heaven where you can be perfectly safe from all the dangers and risks of love is hell. And these words are powerful. Right? Loving means vulnerability. And as I reflect on this passage, Jesus had appeared to his disciples after the resurrection, and Jesus spoke to Peter, who had betrayed him not once, but 3 times. And Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? After all this, even this betrayal and rejection that Jesus must have felt of what Peter did, Jesus spoke to Peter with courage, not with fear, with strength, not weakness, with selflessness, not desperation. And then finally, Jesus spoke to Peter, and what did he display? Mercy, not wrath, as he confirmed his willingness to love. Yeah, Jesus risked everything, right? Everything for us. And then Peter, though, Jesus asked Peter to love others, to follow him. And he invited all of his disciples, all of us, to what? Love unconditionally. Well, do you love me? Isn't that what Jesus asks us even now? What does he say? Feed my sheep. Feed my lambs, right? Bless those in need. I want to leave you with a couple questions as you reflect on this ministry, and maybe God's tugging on your heart to say, I want to help. I can do that. I could give in whatever way that might be. There's a multitude of ways you can help with this Royal Family Ministry, and all the ministries, of course, that many of you have been a part of. Think about even just those high-touch care that many of you gave helping that woman, Miss Graff, in her home yesterday. Yeah, that was giving a whole day to do something that you're not getting nothing back from, right? Blessing others, nothing in return. And so think on this question, and we're going to pray this prayer together. But how can a close relationship with God, deepening my walk with Jesus, help you feel safe enough to risk loving? Think on that, reflect on that, and let's pray this prayer now together as we close. Please pray with me. Loving God, please break down every wall that keeps me from being vulnerable, so I can love you and others with spirit and power, courage, compassion, and consistency. And Lord,